Hello, and welcome to The Alt Left.
Hello and welcome back, everybody. Episode 7 of The Alt Left. I'm glad you're back with us. Today is January 7th when we are recording this. Who knows what's going to change in the next 24 hours?
Why? Has something happened?
Nothing that I've been told, but you never know. You never know. I've been checking into some psychics, and I've heard there's going to be some turmoil at some point this year. But right now it's smooth sailing, so I'm not too worried. But thank you for joining us, everybody. I am your host, Chris. With me is Maddie Cakes.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Alt Left.
And also joining us, as always, every week, the Reverend Dr. K.
Good evening, everyone.
How are you, Father?
I'm doing well. Thankfully, I am safe and sound, unlike some people there in Washington, D.C.
Today, everybody, we're going to be talking actually about current events. We had a whole nother podcast lined up. Then a bunch of fucking Nazis stormed the Capitol, and, well, that screwed up all of our plans, and we thought that, might be a little bit more important. So join us for a little bit, and let's learn about what a few bad apples actually are, because those who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities. So, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Pun absolutely intended.
Oh, those Republicans. They're wascally little wabbits, aren't they?
Yeah, it's not even Republicans, because although everyone, damn near everyone, I'm sure there's some libertarians in that crowd, but sure, most of them are GOPers, but like, there's gotta be about, I don't know, 6 or 7 people who are GOPers who are just so sad watching this. And Mitt, I gotta tell you, I have been it's hurt every time I have to do it. My butthole puckers so tight you could make diamond out of coal in it. But I find myself defending Mitt Romney.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. And it sucks.
Why are you defending Mitt Romney?
That is a fair question. I gotta say, like, it hurts me in places I don't like talking about at cocktail parties. Let me tell you.
Because in my eyes, there's never any reason to ever defend Mitt Romney.
No, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to go against you. That Mormon has got some stones on him.
Yeah.
He's taking up the mantle of John McCain, who, now don't get me wrong, also not a fan of John McCain. I really liked his last minute save to try to save his soul from burning in hell by keeping the Affordable Care Act running. But let's not forget his entire life of harming the LGBTQ community. But he's taking up that stance of the voice of reason within his party of fools. And that's what Mitt Romney's really been doing. And he's had some stones on him. He has literally turned traitor to the GOP and basically been trying to drag them back 10 years to when they weren't insane. They were just cruel.
And it's true. And I agree. And here's what we have to be able to do. It is perfectly okay to look at somebody you don't like as a human being or don't even agree with on any fundamental levels and recognize when they're doing something right. It doesn't mean we think Mitt Romney is a good person, but when someone does something right, even if you don't like them as a human being and fundamentally disagree with them on anything, if they're right, they're right. Above all, I think all of us here need to acknowledge we care about facts above everything else. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah.
And it is important that we acknowledge that Mitt Romney is defending what this country is supposed to be. He is absolutely going against every other piece of shit Republican in there. And again, I think we mentioned this before. It's most likely because he's going to run in 2024 and wants to be.
Of course he's going to run in 2024.
Oh, yeah.
And he wants to point to all this and say, I was the one that stood up for America, which is also a little bit scary because it's probably going to work.
Oh, yeah. I actually, if we're going to cast our dice right now, and you two can bear witness, I've actually been saying it for the last year. I believe Mitt Romney is going to be the next president after Biden.
It wouldn't surprise me in the least, especially with the way he's been acting over the last year. He has unfortunately been the lone voice of reason in a sea of corrupt evil.
Yeah, he really has. And don't get me wrong, and I want our listeners to not also get us wrong, or at least me, that Mitt Romney's a son of a bitch. I don't like Mitt Romney. I don't like what he stands for. I don't like what he votes on. I don't like him, I don't like his views, and I don't like his effect on society. And there's a difference between the two, because Ted Kennedy wasn't a good guy. Ted Kennedy was a real prick. I mean, he let a hooker die in a trunk of his car, I believe, when he went on to Ted Kennedy was an alcoholic. He had all kinds of problems. However, he was a hell of a senator. That guy did amazing things as a politician, and that's what I care about. I care about policy. I don't care about the private lives of my politicians. So Mitt Romney might be a son of a bitch in real life, might be a nice guy when you meet him. I don't know. What I care about is that he's had a career of harming poor people, hoarding wealth, and being a right-wing religious extremist and a bigot. That doesn't mean I'm not going to give him a thumbs up only for his actions here, where he has actually had the stones to stand up to the treasonous actions of his party. And
100%.
I think I can condemn his life's work while also commending his recent actions.
Okay, and that's fair.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And also, when he runs, get ready, because all those Reagan Democrats, they're going to run clips of him marching with Black Lives Matter. You guys all remember that? Those BML protests that he joined?
Oh, yeah. That's what swayed me to make sure that I knew he was going to run. It's because as soon as he started marching with BLM, I was like, Mormon Republican Mitt suddenly cares about people of color? Bullshit. This is a great publicity stunt.
Oh, yeah.
I had actually forgotten about that, to be honest.
Yeah. And I guarantee you it's going to be a big thing when he runs, and every single Reagan Democrat is going to watch it and just jerk off in pleasure. They're going to absolutely swing for him 100%.
Yeah, 100%. And it's going to work. You know, again, that Lincoln, I mean, it cracks me up that there were so many liberals who gave money to the Lincoln Project. I was like, the second the election's over, this money is going to like repeal abortion, right?
No, they don't know that. That is the problem. I don't think most liberals that I've talked to are not even aware that the Lincoln Project is all Republicans.
Yeah, it's just Orange Man bad. That's all most people know right now.
Pretty much.
But, so shout out to Mitt Romney for, having one good deed in a sea of awful. And we need more Republicans like him. Because again, even though he's a son of a bitch, like, at least he stands up to fascists, which is such a low bar. How scary is that I have to give someone a pass because they happen to stand up to fascism and say, hey, I think this is a little wrong.
Because they're the one not trying to set fire to our republic that we have here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sad and scary.
Very, both. Speaking of that fire, so obviously this week we had a whole bunch of Nazis storm, and for the record for our listeners, I am not saying Nazi because I disagree with them. I'm saying it because they're fucking Nazis. We were talking about the leader of the Proud Boys was there, militia members was there. There was a guy with a sweatshirt that said Camp Auschwitz. There were people with the 6MWE shirts. The 6 million wasn't enough, which is a reference to the Holocaust. These were Nazis. These were fascists.
Oh wait, here's one for you. But Chris, how could the Proud Boys possibly be Nazis when the guy that leads them is half black and half Cuban?
Not anymore. That guy's gone.
Right.
That was my favorite part. Is literally their only defense was they had some tokenism, and then they got rid of him. And the guy was like, "Hey, we're not really Nazi enough."
Yeah. Well, and their founder was a hardcore fucking neo-Nazi white nationalist. He got arrested, and then he's like, "Well, I'm stepping down because I don't want to harm the group." And I'm like, "Well, harm's already been done, brother."
Yeah.
And now they're just right back to where they were. And that's the thing. It's the right will bend over backwards to defend neo-Nazis and white supremacists when it's staring them right in the face. It's like you've got the token brown guy surrounded by a bunch of dudes wearing Nazi propaganda sweaters. And you're like, look at the brown guy. There's no way they're neo-Nazis.
Yeah.
How fucking stupid are you people?
But that's how it is. That's how this always happens. Is it starts small and you wave it off as this is just a fringe group, and then all of a sudden they become numerous and powerful, and then everyone goes, I don't understand. It's like, well, this is how it happens. I mean, just was it today or it was today. The Chicago Police Union leader John Catanzara, president of Fraternal Order of Police Lodge 7, huge Trump supporter. He's the head of the Chicago Police Union. This guy literally speaks for the police officers. He said this isn't treason. He says these are, basically went into a whole bunch. He said his quote was, there's no arson, there's no burning of anything, there was no looting, which, again, we literally saw people blowing up things with explosives. There were smoke fires, and there was a guy who stole a fucking podium. There was very little destruction of property as these people were smashing doors open. It was a bunch of pissed off people that feel an election was stolen somehow, some way. He just completely downplays this. The same guy, which, by the way, defended Chicago police when they were found to be having a warehouse that was a torture factory, where they would take people off the street they didn't like, arrest them, detain them illegally, and torture them. He defends that, and he defends this. This is the guy who speaks for the police officers of that area. And I would love to say this is an isolated incident, but it's not. This isn't even like this is just me and some of the super far lefts. Everyone's talking about this. How can you even imagine if these were Muslim protesters or if these were Black Lives Matter protesters? Can you imagine if people with anything better than a 2 o'clock suntan stormed that building? Who would have been shot?
Instead of having 4 dead, we'd have had hundreds.
Yeah.
And hundreds of dead people.
Because there actually would have been guards and police officers there.
Well, remember the BLM protest at the Capitol a few years back? The steps were literally lined up with National Guardsmen.
Yeah, the National Guard was in every major city after George Floyd.
A week before the 6th, the Pentagon asked the police department there in Washington, D.C., if they wanted to have National Guard troops there again for the 6th. And they said no.
Yeah. It's ridiculous that, the mayor of D.C. requested it, was denied. Hell, even once they finally got rolling, it wasn't because the commander-in-chief sent them. Trump actually specifically dodged it, and Mike Pence ordered it, which I could be wrong. I haven't done a lot of research. I believe was the first time ever the vice president has deployed the National Guard.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think you're right as well. And then now, today, Trump had a 2-minute video where he claims that he had sent the National Guard in, which was a bold-faced lie.
Wait, hold on. We need to put a plug in this. Are you suggesting the President of the United States, Donald Jehoshaphat Trump, lied about something?
I'm not just suggesting it. I am stating it as fact.
Harumph, sir. That doesn't sound like him at all. He's a stable genius.
Sure, we'll go with that. Along with his cognitive test.
He can identify a horse. It's fine.
And an elephant.
So this guy doesn't do anything. The Capitol's being ransacked by literal Nazis and fascists. And here's the thing. I'm not even mad that the Capitol was ransacked. I'm with Thomas Jefferson here that, a little revolution here and there all the time is really good. Hell, in I think, God, I want to say it's Poland, where when officials screw up or really fuck things up, they literally, it's tradition that mobs will go into their office, drag them outside and throw them in the dumpster. I'm okay with this. The French literally set up guillotines and start burning shit down when they get screwed over. I am okay with some civil disobedience happening when politicians need it. What I'm really upset about is that this wasn't over taxes. This wasn't over civil rights. This wasn't over the stimulus and the awful handling of the coronavirus that has killed over 300,000 Americans. No, this was to overturn an election. That's the disturbing part. This was not a group of people who have been downtrodden who are fighting for their rights. This isn't the civil rights movement. This isn't Stonewall. No, this was the people with the most privilege in this country who were mad. The ones who say kneeling at the flag is treason. The ones who say that people need to protest peacefully and that when the looting starts, the shooting starts. These guys who constantly go after people of color for every single action they take in protest for their lives, ransack the Capitol violently because they didn't like the absolutely legitimate results of an election. That is terrifying.
Now, here's my thought. This is what I want to get your guys' feedback on this. I think the ones that were actually there doing that, they represent the ones that know full well what they're doing. They're the ones manipulating the information. The ones that are pitching to the more, I guess, the less right conservatives that this isn't really racism, that it's all these other things. What I'm trying to get across is we've got the people on the ground there that were actually storming the Capitol.
The rioters.
Yes, the rioters.
Okay.
I think they absolutely 100% are racist, know they're racist, know they're doing things because they're racist, without a doubt.
I don't believe so. And I don't believe so for one very specific reason, is the people that are there, that were there that day, were there because they are the most dogmatic, they are the most emboldened, and they are also the most delusional. Okay? These are true believers. These are people that listen to everything that Trump says, and they believe every word of it.
I wasn't discounting that, but they're also wearing a bunch of, Auschwitz sweaters. Like, I'm sorry, everything you said might be true, but it doesn't. It's not mutually exclusive from what I said either.
Yeah. Trump didn't tell people to celebrate the Holocaust.
No, that's not what I was saying. Just that I think the people that are there are the truest believers. I don't think that they think they're racist.
Well, he wasn't saying do they think they're racist. He's saying, are they actively racist? And actually, no, never mind. I retract that. You're absolutely right. That is what Matt is saying. I would have to disagree. I think these guys absolutely know they're racist. And a lot of people who are that out. I mean, again, people who will wear 6 million wasn't enough shirts. Guys who wear sweatshirts that say Camp Auschwitz. These Kekistan incel motherfuckers. These guys who do this, I think they do know they're racist and they're okay with it because they believe they're defending themselves up against white genocide. These guys think they're on the right side of history, but they think racism is the right side of history.
But racism now is changing. A lot of them have adopted. What's that stupid motherfucker that got hit, and it was a big thing when he got punched on live TV?
Oh God, that douchebag! Yeah, the guy with the Pepper the Frog pin and
yeah. People like him, it's trying to make it more mainstream by using these dog whistle phrases that seem innocuous on the surface, but really represent white power. And they're co-opting things too. It's like the OK symbol. People on 4chan started that as a joke to try and get people to believe it. And it worked so well that white supremacists believed it and started using it.
I actually would have to disagree. I knew skinheads in high school in the late 90s who used that.
So this was my understanding of it. That might be true. I did not know it was real until this. And when I looked into it, everything that was covering it has seemed to say that was it. If I'm wrong, I'm fine. Regardless, though, it's taking these things that seem innocuous that average everyday people don't associate with white power, and making people think there's some sort of representation of right-wing or conservative ideals. And I think it's these slow little things that have gotten the right to adopt things. I think the new racism is being too ignorant to understand that you're being racist. I think the people with boots on the ground 100% already know what they're doing. I think the average conservative watching them and defending them does not.
I disagree with that also.
Really? You think the average conservative is more cognizant of their racism?
I think the average Trump supporters, absolutely. I'm sorry. I would have happily considered that maybe 4 years ago, there were some people who were just like, no, he's not that bad. He's going for shock value. And he just wants to, he's different. He speaks his mind. He's a different kind of guy. Yeah, I don't agree with everything, but he's going to drain It's been 4 years. Everything this rancid sack of shit does has been apparent and on display for the world. Everyone knows exactly what he stands for. And if you still support him, it's because you stand for that too. I have yet to see a single person in good faith say that what he's doing isn't racist. There's been plenty of people who use that bullshit dog whistle right-wing argument of, well, what really is racism? And, and try to turn it around and talk about how racist BLM is. And it's all crocodile tears garbage. It's all absolute falsity. It's not real. And you know that. When you argue with one of these people, you can tell right away when someone is literally going for a semantic word twisting argument and they're not being genuine with it. And when someone is being genuine in an argument, it's an easy litmus test. These
And that's a
people,
fair point. I mean, I think you have a point there. Here's the thing. And this is my own failing, I know this. I absolutely consider the average Republican to be of below average intelligence, so below average intelligence that they could fall for these things and genuinely believe they're not racist.
now these guys do their taxes. They can smell racism.
Well, but that's the thing. Like, I believe that to be true of them, and I also kind of want that to be the case. I do want to believe that the average Republican is just a fucking moron of epic proportions and doesn't realize that they're really being racist.
I kind of agree with Matt.
It's an easier,
to be honest.
It's so much easier to digest. It's such a horrible thought to have to recognize that there's legitimately 35 to 40% of this country that are just straight up racist, don't like minorities. That's what I feel, but I'm going to twist this words and adopt this language because I don't want the rest of the world to know I'm actually racist.
But
that is
again,
such a horribly scary thought.
But that's the thing. So let's do some critical thinking here. Is that because you actually have evidence to show that, or is it because you don't want it to be true?
No, it's absolutely, and I say this, that is what I want to be true. It is a tormentingly scary thought. I want to reject it. But that's why I started it saying, like, I think you've also got a point there. Like, I don't have anything I can put that. In fact, the more I deal with Republicans from an anecdotal person on person thing and right wingers and conservatives, the harder it gets to believe what I want to believe. It's a very difficult thing, especially nowadays, because you're right. When you start getting them down to brass tacks, I mean, and they'll color it with things of like, like they'll say things like, I've got no problems with people that come into this country legally. And then you start bringing up acts that Democrats have put forward to make it easier to come into this country legally. And they're just straight out not for it.
Yeah,
and so it's like you have contradictory things like that.
Problem with Latinx people.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm sorry. Like, the idea that they're just too stupid to understand is that you're giving them a pass. You're giving them an easy out. You're showing them that you'll just believe that they're just too dumb to get it, and so it's not really their fault. No, it is. These are racists. These are people who are the worst people in our society. They're doing it intentionally. This is what they believe. And again, this kind of comes to our motto about believing absurdities. Yeah. We cannot let our guard down because we don't want a bad thing to be true. That is the same kind of cognitive dissonance the right has.
Well, and again, let me be clear. Just because I think you're stupid and ignorant and don't understand that you're being racist doesn't mean you get a pass. You need to be told you're being racist and you need to wise the fuck up about it. Like, I don't think that someone being so stupid that they don't understand they're being racist means we should just be like, oh, look at you. You don't know any better. Move on.
No, but that is a pass because you're saying it's not done with malice. So no, intentions matter. Intentions matter a lot.
I'm not saying they don't matter, but what you said is I'm just giving them a pass. And the way it sounded to me is if you were saying, I'm just saying it's okay that you're racist.
No, I don't. Let me clarify that. I don't mean that at all. Yeah. But I think you are still giving them a pass. Not that you think it's okay, but that it's forgivable because grandpa's from a different time. And it's like, again, that's why I don't like that answer of, well, grandma says colored people, but grandma's 90 years old. What are you going to do? And it's like, grandma's had 90 years to figure this shit out. Grandma was alive when MLK was marching. I'm sorry. Yeah. Bullshit. The older you are, the less excuses you have. And it's the same with these guys. They've been Republicans forever. When we're looking at 50, 60, 70-year-old Republicans who were alive, during Gerald Ford's presidency, they remember when the Republicans were people we disagreed with about minor civil rights and tax issues, and the big fight. I don't want to say minor civil rights. That's a terrible thing to say. And I'm just going to go ahead and throw that in as my privilege spoke right there. That's bullshit. But the fight was over Jim Crow and taxes, not sedition and not fascism. And that's the thing is we have open fascism here. And so to say that they just don't really get it, they're just too stupid to understand, that's wishful thinking. That's what we want. We want to believe that because the null of that would be horrifying, that fascism is rising in the United States and it's happening with the consent of almost half the population. But I defy you to give me evidence to the contrary. and
you
discount
are.
the massive evidence that there is,
Well,
So
and that's the sad part about it. There isn't evidence to the contrary. And it sucks, man. It sucks because that's not what I want this country to be. But you're right. I mean, there were plenty of Republican senators going around yesterday, and Democrats too, saying this isn't who we are. And I'm sitting there the whole time saying, what the fuck are you talking about? This is exactly who we are. This is who we've been, and a lot of people, are confused by the police response. I've seen a lot of liberals, wondering how this could happen. Well, let me give you a clue. Most of the ones that were policing couldn't get the day off to join the guys that were rioting.
Yeah. And that's the thing is the question of where were the police and how come they weren't getting tasered. It's a rhetorical question because we know why, because they were white. And again, we can wish that wasn't true. We can want that to not be true, but we know that's true. We have seen time and time again, the police are just fine de-escalating a situation with white people. Kyle Rittenhouse shot 3 people and walked towards the police saying it was him with a rifle on his back and his hands up, and they told him to get the fuck out of the way and drove off. And before that, they gave him water. And tons of people paid a shit ton of money to bail him out of jail. We know that this is the case. White people are constant. We see this crazy methed out white trash rednecks coming at cops with knives, with butcher knives in their hands, and they get tased, or they get the cops back up and run away and find a way to get a beanbag out and find a way to take him down without hurting his feelings too hard. And a black guy goes to his car to check on his children while he's unarmed, and he gets shot 7 times in the back. And the police face no charges. So we know why. And the police know why. And everyone knows why. It's just whether or not you're willing to really take that nugget of horrible truth and not push it away and suck on it for a second and really digest that and go, oh my God. Because that's the only way it changes. And so, I'm sorry to go on a soapbox about this, but I think the idea of left-leaning thinkers to brush it off as they're just too stupid to understand is dangerous, because that's, people want to be like, oh, it's everything I don't like is Hitler. No, brushing aside an uncomfortable truth when fascism is rising, that's how you get fucking Hitler.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
No, you're not wrong.
So, but on that note, you're absolutely right. And it's something that, and I'm glad we had this conversation. And the reason why is I know I'm not alone in this desire. And a good part of when we all don't disagree is we get our beliefs challenged. And this is what we need to do. To every leftist, liberal, progressive, what Chris is saying is absolutely true. We've got to really constantly question our own beliefs and why we believe them. 100%. That's the only way we're going to grow as human beings. It's the only way anything is going to get better. So yeah, kudos. You're right. With that said, though, one thing I'd like to do is kind of take the event step by step and get your guys' input. Is that all right?
Let's do it. Let's get into a timeline, baby. Now it's a podcast.
So let's start this off. There was a rally before this happened. Okay. This was a rally that was organized by the Trump campaign. It was promoted for weeks in advance. This all started as a rally, one of his stupid super spreader event rallies. You guys know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Before any of this happened, we had Eric Trump up there hyping up the crowd, talking about how the election was stolen. And then the Cheeto got up there and literally told them to storm the Capitol and that he would be right there with him. And I think within an hour of that is when things started going.
Yeah, and Donald Trump Jr. also was tweeting for people to get there. His whole family was, politicians were. Absolutely.
Meanwhile, you've got, pieces of shit like Ted Cruz and Kelly Loeffler that have been also backing up this bullshit propaganda for weeks, that are on the floor ready to challenge the results of an election that has already been deemed to be fair. The voters have spoken. Every court case against it has been dismissed. There is literally no grounds to claim this election was fraudulent. And you've got Ted Cruz with one Donald Trump ball in his mouth and Kelly Loeffler with the other up there ready to stop this. And so all this is going.
They objected to the Arizona electors, and then they retired, and then the Capitol building was stormed.
Well, they didn't retire. That's the thing. I mean, they stopped talking and things progressed. But all this
they literally retired. They started to go to the separate chambers to deliberate for the 2 hours after the objection to the Arizona electors was made.
Cool. But that did not happen when the riot started.
No, that happened directly before.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I trust you. You're the facts man on this, so cool. So they retired, then the riot started happening. Awesome. Okay, that's where we are at the timeline so far. Perfect. Then you've got videotape. This has been all over the internet. It's not hard to find. Where, yes, there are some videos too of cops that are actually trying to fight against them. Good job on those handful of cops. But those people were already getting into the building at that point. All right. The videos of cops like actually fighting against them. And this is when the protester got shot. Before that, there is literally video of cops removing the barricades and letting them get to the Capitol building. They got let in. And then on another video, you see them taking selfies with cops when they're inside of the Capitol building. On top of that, we're now finding out that one officer actually found a group that was trying to find Chuck Schumer's office and gave them directions because they were getting lost.
What?
Oh, yeah. The Hill was reporting that about, 20 minutes before we started recording.
Gave them fucking directions?
Yeah.
Nothing is more surprising to me than when people are surprised.
And so this is all going on. And again, we do have to acknowledge that there were officers doing their job. There was somebody breaking in. They were told to stand out multiple times. She didn't listen and she got shot and she's dead.
Yay.
I think it's her and maybe 3 others. She's the only confirmed one that I've actually heard.
So the other 3 people were 1 female, 2 males that had other medical related deaths or, some sort of other medical emergency on the grounds as this was happening.
Apparently one guy electrocuted himself in the testicles with a taser while he was trying to steal a painting.
Nice.
Awesome. But all this is going on, and while this is happening, it's also being egged on through tweets by Donald Trump and his family and his supporters. It isn't until they actually get in that you start seeing senators like Ted Cruz and Lindsey Graham. All of a sudden, they have spent 4 fucking years with this Cheetos balls in their mouth. And now all of a sudden, when their lives are in danger, we need to be calm. This isn't the way to do this. Now, 4 years of this bullshit, and now all of a sudden, you need this to stop? Excuse fucking me, where have you been? This is the mentality. They are cowards. Everyone that has been sucking on that Cheetos testicles for the last 4 fucking years are a bunch of limp dick, no spine cowards. Lindsey Graham, Ted Cruz, Kelly Loeffler, was it Jeff Hawley? Haller?
Jeff Hawley.
Jeff Hawley. All of them are spineless little pieces of shit. For Christ's sake, Donald Trump insulted Ted Cruz's wife, and Ted just like, "Oh, this boot's clean, sir. May I clean the other one for you now?"
He's been campaigning for him this whole time, ever since.
Ever since.
He called his wife ugly and all kinds of shit. Yeah.
When they're not getting through to the rioters, they've probably in the background been begging the Cheeto to fucking get on there and say something, and he does. And what does he do? This election was stolen. I love you guys. Don't do this. This election was stolen. You're amazing people.
Special.
You're very special. Yeah.
Literally called them special snowflakes.
And of course they didn't relent. All of them had phones. All of them were getting these messages. And if anything, they were probably emboldened by most of this crap.
Yeah.
And then you've got other guys like this senator, this representative. Is he a senator or representative? I can't remember. Dr. Paul Gosar.
Probably a representative.
I think he's a rep. Anyway, Paul Gosar on Twitter posts this message, and I'm going to quote you here. Okay, I said let's do an audit. Let's not get carried away here. I don't want anyone hurt. We're protesting the violation of our laws. We are builders, not destroyers. BLM burns and loots. We build. If anyone on the ground reads this and is beyond the line, come back. Okay, so this is what he posts on Twitter, which is still fucking horrendous if you ask me. But this is what he posts on Parler at the exact same time this is all going on. A photo of people scaling the fucking Capitol fence or wall. Americans are upset.
Yep.
So make no mistake, even the ones that are pretending to not want this, when they think they aren't being watched by people that are against them, are absolutely egging it on. And this should be infuriating people. And it also should be something that reinforces what we've been saying. Trump and his cult, because that's what they are a cult, are not going away. They're absolutely not. They are going to continue this. And I don't know, do you guys think they have a good shot of hijacking the Republican Party?
I just don't know. That's a tough one to go because, that's what they thought with Teddy Roosevelt and the Bull Moose Party. What a lot of people don't realize is that this what we're looking at actually happened before. Teddy Roosevelt was incredibly popular. And he just decided that Republicans and Democrats both sucked. And he was going to make his own party, and he called it the Bull Moose Party. And it was basically the Teddy Roosevelt Party, just like Donald Trump is trying to make the Trump Party. He made this Bull Moose Party, and it was all about him. And he didn't win the election, but he took like a quarter of the votes, and he completely swayed the election. And had it not been for him, the Conservative Party would have won. It was effective in that it made changes, but it didn't last because they didn't win. And so the question is, not whether or not they'll make their own party, because I absolutely think they're going to make their own party. The question is, will it be successful? And that I don't know.
I think it's got a shot. And the reason I think it's got a shot...
because the internet.
Well, not only that, but look at the leader and the mentality he's fostering. I don't think they care about the country. Like, the difference between, back then, I think Teddy Roosevelt and people like him still cared about America.
Cared about white America.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, that's a fair distinction. And I don't mean to nitpick your point here, but what I don't like is when extremely racist and shitty people, when we're told well, they cared about America. And it's like, Teddy Roosevelt had no problem with having tons of black soldiers slaughtered so he could ride in with his cavalry at the very last second and feel like he had a big dick. And he was incredibly racist.
Yeah. No, absolutely. But when I say that, what I really
I don't think he was treasonous.
and here's the thing. They believe in the foundations that this country, I think, was built upon. Things like the union, things like, the peaceful transition of power. And I think they were pragmatic enough to look and see, I want this, but I'm not going to get it. I have a better shot of getting it if we don't split the parties than if not. Whereas I don't think that mentality exists on the side of the Trumpers. It doesn't exist with Trump. And I don't think the Trumpers have that mentality. I think it's I think they're the kind of people that will say, if the Republicans want to win, they can join our party.
Maybe.
I think only time will tell, to be quite honest.
I don't know. I have, and maybe this is just my cynical side, but it's like when you say well, these guys, believed in the foundations of the country and Trump doesn't. It's yeah, but what are the foundations of the country? It was about a bunch of fucking slave owners who didn't want to pay their taxes. That sounds like Trump to me. But
again, what I'm qualifying that with is again, things like peaceful transition of power, things like putting the country before yourself. Again,
fair.
That I specifically was qualifying for that. I'm not trying to make the argument that the founding fathers or even, any real leader has given a damn about, minorities or especially the black community in this country. But there are and again, it's the same kind of thing that I think motivates a person like a Mitt Romney. Is he a piece of shit? Absolutely. Does he give a crap about black people? Probably not. Does he give a crap about the LGBTQ community? Fuck no, he doesn't.
But he does have even if it's misguided, view of patriotism.
Yes.
Where Donald Trump and his ilk do not.
It's the same kind of thing that prevents people from kind of doing what you talked about last episode. And I don't want to get too into this, but the idea of just accepting that there's at least two cultures in this country that can no longer coexist and just splitting the country. I don't think there's a single establishment politician that is willing to let that happen. I think there's at least that one principle that they would fight to keep. And I think there are things like that that are consistently have always been there for our politicians, regardless of how horrible or not horrible or, ineffective they might be. I think that is something that unites all of them, at least most of them. I do not think that mentality exists for Trump or his supporters. They have a very different view of what the Constitution is, what it says, what it does. And they believe that anybody that does not share their view is their enemy and that they're right and everyone be wrong and it's their country and fuck anybody who disagrees.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, a distinction that needs to be observed and made and calculated for. And I know it's a hard thing to gauge. If this is the route it goes, I think that is the factor that's going to determine whether or not it goes beyond like a single election.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, let's hope it doesn't go for more than a single election. To be quite honest,
that's a naive hope. This is not a problem that's going to disappear anytime soon. This is not an anomaly. This is where our culture and country have shifted to. And just as this didn't happen overnight, this has been building for half a century, if not more. That's how long it's going to take to get out of this hole.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that it isn't. I'm just simply hoping that, and it probably is a naive hope, that not that it just all goes away, because I'm not ignorant, I'm not stupid.
No.
But I think that over time, or I hope that over time, that people will become disenfranchised, that people will focus their energy and their attention on other things, and that focus on Trump will eventually be on something else, and that's what they'll occupy their time with, versus this continued militancy towards Donald Trump and his fucking insaneness that is going on there.
Yeah, we will find out.
Yeah, only time will tell, to be honest. Only time will tell.
But we digress. I mean, really what we were talking about was the timeline, and I think we've covered pretty much everything up until police finally did their job and dispersed everyone.
No, the police didn't do their job. What happened was the National Guard was called in, and once the National Guard was called in, the police decided that it was finally time, and Trump didn't call the National Guard in, Pence did.
Yeah.
Pence at least had the good sense to actually take control of the situation and send in what was needed that was never ordered before, and take care of this.
Well, and let's, just like you said, the police didn't do their job. Let's look into that, because that's one of the things I wanted to talk about was the police didn't shove anyone out of there. I mean, there's literally video of him. They're walking old ladies down the stairs to help them. And, all of a sudden, these guys who just couldn't wait to tear gas and beat the shit out of protesters, and suddenly they're rescuing cats out of trees on the Capitol. Suddenly now we can de-escalate.
But the thing is, we know that the cops are just as racist as the people trying to beat their way into the Capitol building. It's not surprising. No one was shocked when they didn't get out the rubber bullets and the tear gas.
A lot of people were
sure
shocked.
As fuck
That's the problem. I wasn't either. I don't think a lot of people in our audience aren't, but a lot of people were shocked. There was a lot of people who, for whatever reason, actually didn't expect this and really didn't see this level of racism and bias in the police. And I got to tell you, there's plenty of people who still don't.
Well, and if they didn't see it and they're seeing it now, I'm glad that they are, because it's pretty freaking evident.
No, you're right. And it's kind of almost like what we were talking about earlier. It's the desire to not want it to be the way it obviously is. You know what I mean? That's where it comes from.
We want to talk about the good cops. And it's like, I'm sorry, that's the problem is we keep, we can talk about the good cops all day long, but how come every single day in every single city, we always see this? The story never changes. It is police gunning down black people constantly, beating them, tear gassing them, and murdering them, never getting charged with anything. Grand juries and qualified immunity getting them off the hook. Everyone has outrage. There's a bunch of protests, and no one does shit about it. And it happens again and again and again. And all we ever get is, well, but I know a cop, or these people are nice, or one time this guy saved my grandma from a burning car. And it's like, I don't give a shit. Every single time we're constantly display this. I mean, people want to talk about gun violence because there's a mass shooting almost every month. And it's like, do you realize how many black people are murdered by police in this country? I mean, this is the history of American policing.
Well, and we have mass shootings every day. Not every day right now, but up until early this year, we were having mass shootings all the time. School shootings, things like that. But this fucking country can't seem to give up guns.
Well, and again, we treat that like a national crisis, but when the actual authorities, the people who are tasked with protecting us and with keeping the law and keeping justice, are actually the perpetrators of the worst crimes.
But as you said, they have no responsibility to act.
Yep.
And that is a problem.
Yeah, and this,
if they have no responsibility to act, they're not going to unless it behooves them. And the way that it behooves them is for them to shoot black people.
Yeah, and again, that is what I think was the most telling of this instance was, and it's actually, I got to tell you, taking it back, I was slightly surprised because I actually expected the Capitol Police
to do more.
Yeah, because, you kind of see them as a Secret Service kind of role. Like, they're actually guardians of the Capitol building, not just beat cops. And so you kind of actually expect a little bit more out of them, like, regardless of the color of skin of the person who's committing high treason, they actually will defend the senators inside. It's like, no, there's a handful of guys who will, and everyone else is going to be off on a fucking coffee break.
I expected their leadership to be better. I expected the people that were in charge to actually put forth the effort that was necessary to protect the people that we have elected to do their jobs, and let those people actually do their jobs. But instead, they moved barricades and, like you said, helped old ladies downstairs.
Took selfies, yeah.
Which is not what we needed them to do. What we needed them to do was to repel terrorists and keep them from getting into the Capitol building while the joint session was happening and certifying our electors.
Yeah, and we literally have shown these people that they can do this, that they can throw a shit fit and storm the Capitol building and actually interrupt democracy and actually stop the session of the House and Senate to elect the president, that they can actually disrupt an election, that we have let them, that this is a tactic that will work.
Well, it's a tactic that will at least pause it, because they went back into session by 8 p.m. same day. And by the morning, by I think it was 3-something a.m., they had gone through the rest of the electors and certified Joe Biden as the president.
Yeah, it was like 1:30 this morning.
Can we also just take a minute to mention this event, not the rioting, but this session of Congress? This was all supposed to be largely ceremonial. This was supposed to be fluff. This is not a controversial thing. Look what this Cheeto has fucking done. He has turned something that is largely a boring, non-really newsworthy event. I mean, places like C-SPAN and stuff will cover it, but nobody will really give a shit about this. And all of a sudden, because he's got a bunch of ball suckers like Ted Cruz and Kelly Loeffler and Lindsey Graham right there to do his bidding, they have turned this into something that actually interrupts the democratic process. And then, of course, when he realizes that all of his whining and crying in the courts isn't going to work, and that like Pence and everybody else that he thinks has some authority to stop this, which they don't, is not going to back his play and his insanity, then he turns to his cult.
Yep.
And gets them riled up.
And then once that it didn't actually work, then he puts out a 2-minute video today conceding and saying that there will be a peaceful transfer of power, and claiming that he was the one who sent the National Guard in, which he didn't do.
Well, I reject the idea that he conceded. Okay, he used a lot of nice words. Cool. The words Joe Biden is president and I formally concede the presidency never came out of his mouth. And there's a reason, because he will absolutely spend the next 5 fucking years saying he never conceded the goddamn race and that it's a fake election.
Yep. I actually am with Matt on this one, because he said yesterday, sure, I will never concede.
I agree that he didn't say those words.
Yeah,
but he did. But he did promise to a peaceful transfer of power.
In a normal world, you would be completely correct. Like if we were talking about Joe Biden fighting an election, right? And Joe Biden made that statement that Trump said word for word, I would agree with you that would be a concession. Trump will be the first one to kind of pull this Bill Clinton, well, blowjob isn't technically sex, like he'll pull that kind of crap all the time. Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. See, I dismissed them. I said they're awful. Like, he didn't say that at all, buddy. He's the first one to make an argument and defend himself or attack based on semantics. It's a cheap shot. It's the mark of an imbecile. But it's what he does, and it's what his base does. Again, when we talk about these Proud Boys, we're talking about people being openly racist, is they'll mince words, and they'll go on semantics, and they'll say, well, Antifa's the real fascist, and like you'll say, well, it's racist to, spending all this money and focusing on the border wall is racist. How's that racist? It's just protecting our borders. Why do you hate white people? Well, maybe you're the racist, and it's like, it's a bad faith argument. It's garbage. They know it's garbage. It's not even like they're arguing and they're too dumb to get it. It's that they realize that liberals, leftists, and even centrists argue in good faith and don't play these juvenile word games. That's why I don't even like getting into arguments with Trumpers, because it's never an actual debate or argument. You're just yelling at a wall.
There's no point in it. There's no point in engaging. Center-right Republicans, I will still talk to. But if you're a Trump supporter, there's no point in talking to you, because the only thing that's going to fix you is a mallet to the fucking head.
Yeah. Very Trotsky of you. That was hot. I like it.
If you had caught me even 2 or 3 years ago, I would not have taken that position. But I unfortunately, even before the podcast, I'm the kind of person that when I see something on social media, I want to debate it. And in the past, it was things like religion, and I would go back and forth with different people on the right on things like that and abortion and all that. But then Trump became president, and there was a fundamental shift in the way these people dealt with you. It's like that old meme. I've seen it for both sides: conservatives, Democrats, liberals, Republicans, whatever. But it's like arguing with a conservative is like playing pigeon with a chess, or arguing with a conservative is like playing chess with a pigeon. Even if you make all the right moves, they're still going to shit all over the board and strut around like they won. It was a funny joke, because there was always, even on the left, there's a subset of people that are like that. But when Trump came around, it's all of them. They no longer care about being intellectually honest. It's not about having the moral high ground or having the right argument. It's just about, I'm right, you're wrong, you're the real racist, fuck you.
Yeah.
And that's it. And
that's absolutely true.
And unfortunately, 4 years of that has gotten me to the point where it's like, that's the only logical conclusion anymore. The only thing that's going to you cannot logic somebody out of a position they did not use logic to obtain in the first place.
Well, and that's why I call them true believers, is because you cannot convince a true believer, no matter how much evidence you give them, that their view is wrong, because they believe that what they believe is true, and it's not based in logic. It's based in fantasy. It's not based in reality.
Well, I mean, it's like we're always saying, those that can get you to believe absurdities can get you to commit atrocities.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the game, and this is a game, and we need to recognize what's being done here. This is intentional. This isn't grandma doesn't know any better. This is intentional. We cannot excuse it. We cannot accept it. And in all honesty, just as the right is guilty of bad faith arguments, the left is guilty of bad faith questions. I'm tired of hearing, like, I don't understand how come they weren't there to gas these guys. And, I'm starting to think the police might be a little racist. Yeah, no shit. We know this. And liberals don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that things are terrifyingly wrong. And, the Black Lives Matter movement has really brought police brutality to the eyes of white Americans. Black Americans have known this for 150 years. This isn't news. It's news to the privileged. And liberals need to stop asking, like I said, these are bad faith questions. Like, I don't know, this might be a bad thing. And I don't understand. And, no, we are experiencing a hostile takeover of our nation by fascists. And we can either confront that and deal with it, or we can sit here and cry and whine about malarkey and getting things back to normal. And normal is bullshit. Normal got us here. It's not going to save the day. This is Prime Minister of England Chamberlain trying to appease Adolf Hitler. Well, it just needs a little bit more Lieberschein. He just needs some breathing room. Germany just needs more farmland. If we give him this and give him this and give him this, and if we just recognize that the Proud Boys have the right to freedom of speech and the police will be there to make sure nothing gets out of hand. And no, we have active hate groups in this country. Why is the Klan legal? Why are the Proud Boys legal? Why are the Oath Keepers legal? They shouldn't be. These are domestic terror organizations. We're too busy trying to prosecute Julian Assange and drag him back from England on, all these charges for hacking. And it's like, yep, there it is. That's treason. Speaking truth against the empire of lies is treason. Storming the Capitol is just some bad apples and some angry Americans. That's the reality we need to start dealing with. Our focus is all wrong. We don't need to worry about getting back to normal. It's not about getting Orange Man bad off the tweets. This is about confronting who we truly are, realizing that your neighbors might be fascists. There's a 50% chance. And we need to take that head on. We need to make hate groups illegal. We need to prosecute these guys. We need to tear them down, tear them apart. The FBI needs to stop looking into left-wing organizations and do what they did to the Black Panthers, who were just trying to give school lunches to children. If that kind of energy was brought towards the Proud Boys, they'd be toast.
Well, and what gets me about it too, we have multiple independent organizations, the Southern Poverty Law Center, the ACLU, the FBI and CIA, all of them have come out and openly said these groups are the biggest threat to the American people of anything else there is, more than any kind of Middle Eastern terrorist groups, more than the threat of nuclear attack, more than the threat of the Russians. Like, none of them compare to these homegrown terror groups. It's great that they acknowledge that,
but they need to do something about it.
There's nothing being done, not a single thing, because, well, we can't infringe on the rights and the freedoms of the evil white terrorists. Like, it blows me away.
That also has a lot to do with the person who's president. If the person who's president doesn't instruct those organizations to look further into them, they're not going to, because they don't want to do it.
Yeah, it starts the president, starts at the Justice Department. I mean, the fish rots from the head. And I don't have faith that that nothing will fundamentally change. Biden administration is actually going to tackle this stuff.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so either.
It was interesting, too, one of the tweets he sent out today, because the last episode we talked about it, and you mentioned that, like, his first speech was talking about racism in this country, and he hasn't said a thing about it since then. Mm-hmm. The tweet, he actually echoed what was being said for hours beforehand, but it was something along the lines of it wasn't even an imagined tweet. He said if this had been a BLM protest or a group of Muslims, they would have been treated much different.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought that was an interesting aside.
It is, but my question is, what's he going to do about it? I don't care that Joe Biden is giving me the warm and fuzzies about it. What's the praxis?
Yeah.
Where is it?
There isn't one.
Nope.
There isn't one.
Have he issued a single plan?
Nope.
To do anything? Nope.
Not a one. But that's the strategy of the centrist. It's condemn, condemn, condemn. This is bad. This is bad. This is bad. But when it comes to enacting policy, nothing.
Yeah, offer no recourse.
But and again, like I didn't mean to say that as a defense of Joe Biden. I just thought that like it was a convenient time for him to finally get back on that horse.
But that's what we need is action, not words. I don't need feel-good statements from the president-elect. I need a leader who's actually going to attack the cancer in this country, not someone who's just going to give me morphine. And surprisingly, Mike Pence has done more in the last 48 hours for this than Joe Biden has. Mike Pence refused to join the Trump train on the bullshit. Mike Pence is the one who sent the National Guard out. And again, much like Mitt Romney, he's one of the ones who I think Mike Pence is an evil, slimy son of a bitch. I think he's cruel and evil, and he's got a big problem. Anyone who calls themselves a Christian first and an American second has no business being in public office. You belong in a church, not in the Senate floor.
Fucking men.
But he's, again, back to like we were doing with Mitt Romney, let's at least acknowledge the good he's doing. And I believe there has been talk of the 25th Amendment with the rats jumping off the sinking Trump ship. Who knows? But, there is talk.
Absolutely has been talk about the 25th Amendment, but I'd like to take one step back really quickly. Before the 6th, Mike Pence from the office of the vice president put out a memo or a letter that basically said that his only job during all of that was to record the electors as they were reported.
Yep.
As they were certified, and that was it. That he did not have any power to change them. Okay? So he has kind of, I think, taken a step back in general. And as far as the 25th Amendment is concerned, like he has said that they are looking into it. He has started to talk with some of the cabinet members. We've had a couple of cabinet members that have just resigned today. And I think that we're going to continue to see cabinet members jumping ship because they don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah, no, we have a far better chance of impeachment, which is, I think, why they said, like, 25th Amendment or we're impeaching. And that's how honestly, that's the way to go, is let's throw through another impeachment for the crime of sedition.
And if he's actually impeached for sedition, he can't hold any office at all.
Yeah.
Period. Ever again, no matter how small, no public office, period. So impeachment is actually a much better way to go. And impeachment doesn't have to take forever. It's only if it's contested.
Well, yeah, and the speaker of, the two people who control the speed of it is the Speaker of the House and the Senate Majority Leader, who are now both
Correct.
Democrats. So that would be quick. The real thing to know there is, even if he got, let's say he got pardoned, right, by Mike Pence, it actually doesn't make the crime go away.
No, it doesn't.
Once he's convicted. A pardon removes the sentence.
And half of the reason why I think that he doesn't want to be removed from presidency is because all of the lawsuits, all of the claims against him that are going to come down on him after he is out of office.
Yep.
And has the presidential protection. I think that is a majority of his fear right now.
Even if he somehow gets his bullshit forever pardon of himself, it doesn't matter. He's going to jail for state violations. Like, this is over and done with.
And the president doesn't have anything to do with it.
Nope.
You cannot pardon a state conviction.
Yep. Absolutely. And especially in states like New York and stuff where no governor is ever going to overturn him. He's done. And that's a good thing.
It is a good thing.
But yeah, he's scared, and this is coming to a head, and again, he's scared, and that's a good thing. So let's keep watch on this. Let's watch this space, guys.
Absolutely.
I think that's a good coverage of where we're at. That is where I think we're going to take this episode, and let's do a few white guy takeaways. Let's check in with the good Reverend. What are you going to take away from today's talk?
I think that my takeaway is that the Trump supporters that were there today and your discussion about it really kind of swayed me and made me think a little bit more clearer about it, is that the people there, they knew what they were doing. Not every single one of them, obviously. I think that there are a lot of people there that were there because they got caught up in it. But there's a lot of people there that were there to do exactly what they did. That is the thing that we need to fight against. We need to fight against the wanton racist. We need to fight against the wanton militant fascist.
All right. What about you, Mathopotamus?
I don't want to be an echo chamber, but I think the good Reverend Dr. K hit it right. We had that conversation. I think it was important because these conversations are how we come to realize our own inherent biases, our own fallacious thinking. And it's absolutely true. We can't just give people a pass because we want to believe they're ignorant and stupid and don't really know any better. You're absolutely right. It is 2020. The internet is a thing. Access to this information is not hard to find. All you have to do is go to www.google.com and type in a fucking question and you will get an answer. There is literally no excuse for not understanding your racism, not understanding your fascism, and as of today, not tolerating it anymore. Even from the Republicans that I still engage with, you got no excuses anymore. You need to stop enabling the racist behavior. You need to stop enabling the fascism. You need to stop with all the hating of minorities, the LGBT community, all of it. Because there is one side of the political aisle in this country that thinks everyone deserves equal rights. And your side, the right side, disagrees with that. Whether you personally agree with it or not is not at question here. It's your leadership that you elect. They don't think so, and you keep electing them. And it's not going to be tolerated anymore.
That was delicious. I think I'm just going to put that on repeat when I want to go to sleep at night. Just curl up in a warm ball and feel better about myself. That gave me the warm and fuzzy, sir.
Chris, what's your white guy takeaway?
I think what I'm going to take away from this conversation is that we need to all keep having these, and they need to be communalative, not just one at a time and not keep going over the same talking points. And when I say we, I don't mean us three white, straight, cis guys in California. I mean we as Americans. We need to talk about this, and they need to be a series of conversations we have with each other where we don't just say a couple talking points that we've heard and move on. We need to recognize something and then move on to the next step. We need to finally come to grips with the powers that be, and especially the police, are going to let this happen, and that this country is slipping, not just in our politicians or in our voting base, but all of it as a whole, in every echelon of our society. We are slipping towards a far-right dystopia. This is getting bad. This is getting really bad, and it's getting worse, and it's not going to be better January 20th. We need to stay vigilant. We need to keep tabs, and we need to make actual changes. Not just silence a couple of loudmouths, not just vote a couple politicians out. We need to make change in this country, and we need to start making racists afraid again. We need to take these fucking Nazis and push them and scare them back under the rocks they crawled out from. And until we do that, nothing's going to get better.
Right on. Usually I'd say amen, Reverend, but the Reverend already said his piece, so...
I'll take it, Your Eminence.
Your popiness.
Your lordship.
Now we're talking. Now let's talk about the cast in general. Matt, I think you've been seeing some followership, people engaging us a lot online.
There have been a few of you that have been listening to our requests for engagement. We appreciate it. We want to give a shout out. First and foremost, Smells Like Democracy. A new listener just picked up the cast, I think, within the last week. Blew through all 6 episodes that we already had out, commented on all of them. He's got a couple suggestions. One was he was asking if we could ever do book recommendations. He said he was curious as to what we were reading. So you guys have anything currently? I know it's a little late to the game, but I actually just finished reading The New Jim Crow. I cannot recommend it enough.
Oh, God, that's a classic. I read The New Jim Crow, I want to say like 7 or 8 years ago. It's such a good read, and it's such a good way to get a bead on our current criminal justice system and the war on drugs.
100%.
I'm with you. I put my stamp of approval on that one. So for book recommendations, obviously there's the classics. I would definitely recommend State and Revolution by Lenin. I would definitely, if you're looking for good political fiction, a very good classic is The Jungle by Upton Sinclair. Now, this book changed history in America, actually. It's a book about the meatpacking plants in Chicago. It's a story of immigrants and the crushingness of capitalism. It actually led to the USDA getting formed. A lot of turn of the century things that actually happened in the liberal evolution of America. And currently, if you're looking for a current book, I couldn't recommend enough How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi. Fantastic book. It's not only about how to not be racist, it's about how to actually fight racism. And instead of just simply stop being part of the problem, actually become part of the solution, especially if you are a person of privilege. Couldn't recommend that enough. How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi.
Awesome. Reverend Dr. K, any recommendations for you this week?
The only thing that I've really been reading recently is a book by Brandon Sanderson. It's part of the Stormlight Archive series, and that whole series, everything Brandon Sanderson actually writes, it's all fiction, high fantasy, but that's the kind of stuff that I enjoy. So give him a shot.
Also from Smells Like Democracy, we got a comment from our episode where you kind of where Chris took a shot at Oregon. Do you remember that?
We got a Portlander here who's pissed at me now, huh?
Shots fired.
Fair enough. I accept it.
This is also from Smells Like Democracy. Hey now, Oregon has a great liberal governor. Certainly she is no communist, but she is progressive. Ted Wheeler, Portland's mayor, is really quite a neoliberal lapdog. Many groups in Portland have called him out on many occasions. So, because you did mention there was like 3 liberals in Portland and that was it.
Absolutely. So. And clearly Smells Like Democracy is one of them. And I will take this point tonight out. Although I despise the racist history of your state, if you are a Portlandian, hats off to you. I said it then and I'll say it again. Portland is on the right track. That is a city that is getting shit done and is getting on the right side of these issues. So no, keep up the good fight. Anybody who's listening in Portland, hats off. You're doing fucking great. I think you're amazing. And you can keep fighting the good fight.
A couple of other ones I wanted to do shout outs. So from Twitter, @Stuffy is here. Just wanted to give us a shout out. Said he saw us. He says he does. He's not entirely sure what he labels himself, but he does say he falls. His political compass falls on the libertarian left. I know Chris isn't going to be too happy with that.
The libertarian left.
Yeah, that's a contradiction of terms.
Yeah, I'm actually interested because it's libertarian left. I don't know. That's all right.
So this is the whole quote. Not entirely sure what I'd label myself, but my political compass tests fall on the libertarian left. But I take the quote unquote radical stance of people shouldn't go bankrupt from getting cancer.
I mean, that sounds like just left to me.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're here, man.
Yeah. One topic suggestion he does have, he's like, I'd like to recommend reading and discussing the book, The Deficit Myth.
I haven't read that, but I've actually heard of that book. I'll see if I can stomach it. I know it's more of an anti-tax small government cringe thing for me, at least.
And then there's 2 more shout outs I want to give of people that just started following us on Twitter as well. The first one is Mark of Cain with a tagline on Twitter, "Time for a People's Party."
Mark of Cain, I wonder if he's a White Wolf gamer or just hates his brother.
That's what I was wondering too. We don't get into it here, but I will tell you, being 3 white cisgendered males, we are also, all 3 of us, incredible nerds. So we don't do a podcast about that here, but if you have anything nerd related, like again, with the White Wolf tabletop games, give us a shout out for those because we are into them. Other one I wanted to shout out to, Chris actually had some interactions with him today, was Kellogg Now, also from Twitter. You know, he's been interacting with us quite a bit. We had some disagreements on censorship today. Chris, you know the one I'm talking about?
Yes.
I want to thank him for engaging. He was we didn't agree with him, but he was extremely civil. It was a good conversation. And I think he's got an interesting take. I don't agree with it, but it's an interesting take.
I don't agree with him, and I did engage him a little bit on that. That's not to say his point doesn't have logic, and I don't think he's coming. I think he's definitely coming from an honest and fair perspective, and I'm glad he's here.
As always, you know, we do want to hear from the right as well, centrist especially, because I know we do kind of go after a lot liberals too. but we want to hear your takes. If you're respectful with us, we'll be respectful back to you, right, guys?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Unless, of course,
Even
you're
if
a
we
Nazi. If
disagree.
you're a Nazi, you're a piece of shit, and we're going to tear you apart.
And I'm happy to have you on this show. I'll tear your crowd ass down.
And then one last special announcement. Chris actually did an interview with another podcast group today that will hopefully be posting this week or shortly after this week's episode is posted. Chris, what was the name of that group?
It was actually a really cool podcast that I would definitely recommend people checking out. It's called the Policy War Podcast. And when they reached out to us online, I listened to a few of their casts, and it's good stuff. They, much like us, giving different perspectives, they're a wider range. They've got a leftist, a rightist, and a libertarian centrist, and it's more shotgunning. So if you have a whole bunch of time, like an hour or so, give it to us. If you've only got 30 minutes to give to a topic and you want to get a quick blow through of different viewpoints of the same topic, they're a great listen to. Intelligent guys know what they're talking about. I had the pleasure of being interviewed by Russell. Really great guy. Had some interesting things. We talked about how he wanted to know how I came to my super left beliefs. And we talked a little bit about foreign policy and economics. It was good stuff. I highly recommend them. Go check them out. They are called the Policy War Podcast. And we probably will have Russell join us on this show at some point. He was interested in coming on, so we'd actually like to have him as a guest. And come join us to get maybe at least get a less white perspective on some of these issues.
Absolutely. And then you can also follow them on Twitter at policy_war. Policy_war at Twitter. Give them a like, give them a follow.
So thanks for joining us here today, guys. Remember, we're going to be launching a new episode every Monday. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you. We'll see you online. We'll see you in the streets. And we will see you here in your ear holes every Monday. Until then, watch out for each other. Take care of yourselves. And remember, kids, the revolution is you.